Hi, this is Kathy Callahan-Brady, and welcome to In the Trenches. Today I have the pleasure of spending some time with and having a conversation with Tom Willie from Blue Pillar. So thank you again for coming in. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you having me.
Well, you know, the cool part about all of this is that I just want to have the opportunity to be able to thank all of our advisors, because I know this morning, 7:30 in the morning, being able to come down, and I know how busy you are, and spend all this time and give this amazing advice to our clients. It's just, I appreciate it tremendously, so thank you.
You know, it's a second love of mine. Running startups is the first, and helping startups is the second.
Yeah.
So it's great to have me involved, and I really appreciate you giving me that opportunity.
Well, you know, the amazing part is I think that Frederick is such a cool place, because when I started this position 2 years ago, I had this goal of having 25 CEOs like yourself who would be here volunteering for our clients. And we have 36 right now, and I'm, just a little beyond 2 years. That's where Frederick, we've got these amazing community of CEOs who come together and just love the entrepreneurial ecosystem that, as busy as you are, and I know you are, that to be able to come out and volunteer that kind of time is tremendous, so thank you.
Yeah, it's far exceeded my expectations. You know, we chose to bring Blue Pillar here several years ago, and quite frankly, our board was skeptical. They were like, Frederick, what's the tech community down there? And it's, you know, now that we've had them here and been able to interact in the community, it's been excellent.
Yeah.
So you guys have done a great job at Fitzy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It really has changed quite a bit. Today, we actually have a group coming in from Baltimore, technically Baltimore. I keep telling them, I'll say it online, it should be technically Frederick. So we've got a bunch of people coming in just really to show them how phenomenal Frederick really is. But and I think we're really blessed because our entrepreneurs have this ecosystem that really helps them and scale their businesses so much quicker. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, Frederick has, everybody that comes here is blown away. We just got to get the word out more and more. I think that's the key, is just getting more and more of the messaging out about what the city has to offer.
Well, you're sitting right there on the corner, and so lots of people see that blue pillar across the top.
Yep.
But a lot of people are thinking, what in the world is a blue pillar? So you want to tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. Yeah, Blue Pillar was started with one fundamental belief, and the belief was that, you know, the world's largest and most complex facilities, you know, places like hospitals and universities and military bases, fundamentally were going to care more and more about their energy consumption and their energy resiliency over the next 20 years. And so if you think about the weather-related issues that we're seeing more and more of, if you think about the cost and prices of electricity going up, you know, our belief was that they're going to need to do something about that, that they're going to want to do something about that. In order to do something about it, they're going to need the data and information to do it. And unfortunately, most of those facilities, the data and information came from walking around with a clipboard today. So our idea was, if we could go in there and put Internet of Things connectivity on their energy-related pieces of equipment and systems, we could give them the data that they needed to change the way they operate. And that's really what's driven the business for the last 10 years.
Wow, makes sense. And where did Blue Pillar come from? It's not originally from this area, right?
It's not. No, it was started in Indianapolis in the Midwest, and so it was kind of started there, and then has branched out. The company came to Frederick probably about 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago.
Okay, I didn't realize it was just that short.
Yeah, relatively short.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been the CEO?
5 years.
Okay.
So literally just 5 years now.
All right. And I know one of the things that you seem to contribute tremendously about is the whole idea of raising money. It seems like you've done quite a bit of that, and like all of our entrepreneurs are pretty much out there raising money. So your advice has been tremendous on that, so thank you. But are you still raising money, or you have raised a lot of money? I mean,
yes and yes. Yeah, I mean, you're never necessarily done raising money. You know, somebody once told me you raise it when you can. But for our situation, you know, we set out on a mission 2 years ago to get as close to profitability or as quick to profitability as we could. We had raised money over the years, obviously in Blue Pillar, and certainly beyond Blue Pillar I have as well. But you know, there's pros and cons with raising money. So we are officially raising our last round now. now. We are in the process, actually got the first tranche of money in, and that will be the last round we have before profitability.
Yay,
so we hope to have that closed by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I love having all the different advisors coming to the table, where some have done it one way in terms of raising money and others have bootstrapped it, and it's just very different to see the advice. And I think that's the beauty part about being able to come together, and how much you guys actually give to our clients to be able to do that. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no right way. You know, it's whatever works for the entrepreneur or the owner or the individual in charge at the time. I think you know, at different situations require different approaches. So our approach has been venture capital investment, and that's kind of been the company's history for several years. And I bringing in with me as the CEO. That's kind of where my background came, and so we've just been doing more and more of that.
Yeah, that seems like that is your sweet spot. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to interview some more for Funded to Bruise actually next weekend.
Exciting.
Next week
Looking
as well.
forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some pretty fun individuals that we get to interview, so that'll be really cool. So part of the reason why we like doing it, and we say this in the trenches, is because we want to be able to give our audience and people who are thinking about FITSE, or even there's a lot of people that you don't know. I mean, we've got 44 clients right now, and you're just advising, not just, but advising 5 different clients at a time, the team that you're on. So we want to be able to give the whole community an opportunity to be able to see really who is the lifeblood of really FITSE. And we want to be able to kind of get into some of the, the things that make starting a business hard, which all of us who've done it, we know how difficult it is. But you guys make it look easy. I mean, you walk around completely confident, you've got it all together, you impress the heck out of me all the time. But the stuff that people really want to know about is what are the things that are the lessons learned? What are the things that you can kind of leave them with of, this was painful, really didn't work well, don't do it. Try and go in a different direction. Just some advice.
Yeah, I mean, my advice is to get comfortable with failure. Honestly, it's a pretty intriguing situation when you're running a small company. You tend to try to convince yourself that what you're doing is right, when what I've learned over the years is try to prove why you're wrong quickly and as quick as humanly possible, and that way you can course correct. Just because you're wrong doesn't mean you're wrong forever, and just because you're wrong doesn't mean it's fatal. It just means that you can learn from whatever mistakes you're making and then course correct. And that's been probably the biggest learning I've had over 3 startups in a row now. Is at my first startup, it was we're right, and I would have died trying, even if I was wrong.
I so get that.
Yeah. And Blue Pillar was, how do we figure out that we're wrong quickly as we possibly can? And it's never easy, because you always, for every mistake you make, there's a glimmer of hope that makes you think you're on the right track. And so that's the balance, I think, as a CEO, is reading those tea leaves as much as possible. But it's that's probably my biggest advice is fail quickly, fail as fast and as possible and as frequently as possible.
Right, and pivot quickly
and
move on. But that is really hard, because we're so trained to go out at networking events or stand up and want to look so good, and that ego gets in the way and everything else. Because I get it, my very first business, and you and I are in Vistage together. Yeah. And the whole premise of that is to be able to come and just lay everything out and show your vulnerabilities like, ooh, that doesn't feel good at all.
Absolutely. I'm always amazed. I'll go to conferences or trade shows or investor LP meetings, and CEOs will get up there that I know, and they'll present, and they'll present the most glorious story of like, here's how everything's going great. We'll come off stage, we'll go grab a drink, and they'll be like, oh my gosh, things are really challenging. It's a real. I'm like, at least you're being honest now.
Exactly.
But that's the challenge. CEO, you have to be on stage, so you always, of course, are pitching and passionate about your business. But on the same token, you do like to talk to other CEOs about, okay, what are you seeing? What mistakes am I making? What mistakes have you made? And those are often the best conversation, is what have you done wrong that you've learned from that I can avoid down the road?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's never about, I've never found a CEO that's been successful that is always right.
Well, that's
I mean,
sure.
it's fundamentally part of being a good CEO is to make mistakes, admit, and course correct.
Great advice. I think that's part of the reason why I love FITSE. I think I've got the best job in the world, because I get to hang out with these amazing people like yourself and our clients that, there's no other place in the world that's like this. I just love this ecosystem. So
Yeah, and I credit to you for, taking those startups through that journey that you're taking them. When we were in FTSE many years ago, it didn't quite have that level of oversight in regards to making those startups be a bit accountable to advisors, to yourself, to FTSE in general. And that's one of the big fundamental changes I've seen at FTSE under your leadership, is really not just providing a location and some resources, but also providing that accountability that I think entrepreneurs ultimately need. I have a board of directors that does that for me. I think what you've done in FTSE is create that environment for the startups that you take in. I think it's very positive.
Yeah, we don't always like it. I know I don't like that accountability at all every single month when we go to Vistage and stuff, but it is so needed and important. So thank you for saying that. If you had any sort of thing that you'd like to leave an entrepreneur with in terms of maybe what made you, from either advice or a book or a quote or maybe a motto, something that sort of shifted you as a person, what would that be?
Well, I mean, I could, for me, it's always been about resiliency. So for me, it's been, there's always dark days. Most of us have had them on the personal side or the professional side. I'm amazed at how resilient the human beings are, and certainly entrepreneurs are. And so even in your darkest days, keep your head on straight and keep positive, because those moments will happen. They often will be pretty dark, and you're incredibly resilient as a person, and so that's the one thing I found. Regarding book, I think the book that's probably changed the way I lead inside of a company the most has been The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. It's a book that I read probably 10 years ago now, when I was less good as a CEO, quite frankly, in keeping the culture and the dynamics within a leadership team, in check. And so for me, reading that book really opened my eyes to constructive conflict and how positive that actually is. We are pretty rough at Blue Pillar between the executives. We will literally tell them, like, hey, you're really screwing this up or really messing this up, and we don't take it personally, because we all know we're in the same boat, we're trying to accomplish the same goal, but we're going to tell you what's on our mind. And so sometimes it's an interesting dynamic to be in that environment, but it's one that I think makes a great culture.
Yeah, and really important too. I always tell them that there's a warning sign on the front door that says tough love will be had here. Fierce conversations.
Absolutely.
You made me think of something. I always think about what are the books that sort of stick in my mind a while back. And remember the book Time is Money, Robert Shealy or something along those lines?
Yep.
I remember the very first time I read it, it was like, this is the stupidest book in the world. And then I came to the Vistage, and you were so into it. You had developed this entire spreadsheet on it. And I went, whoa, I've got to look at this a little bit differently again. And it's one that I'm constantly reminding people of in FTSE, and giving them your spreadsheet as well. So it lives on.
I'm honored. I'm honored. And it was ultimately a personal challenge to myself. Was, Ed from Vistage, said, hey, all of us are kind of trained to get rewarded by doing something. Right. Whereas CEOs need to be rewarded for thinking about where to do, what to do. And that's a big change for a lot of people. And so you find yourself doing a lot of really, really tactical things, but not a lot of strategic things. And that book kind of points that out.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because when you start off as a startup, you've got to do everything because you're kind of wearing all hats. And as you progress along the way and your company progresses, you've got to constantly be thinking about what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, and letting go. So, yeah, I'm constantly going back to that book too. And it seems like such a simple book. You think, this is silly. But, yeah.
Sometimes the good ideas are simple, right?
They really are. Yeah. Well, thank you again for your time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you and everything that you do, what you give back to this community and stuff as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is In the Trenches with FTSE, and stay tuned. Come to our website, ftse.org, and you will learn more about our other advisors and other interviews that we've got going on there.